Welcome to the Pharma Source podcast. Today's episode was recorded live from the show floor at CPHI Milan last week and features interviews with a number of key companies, including Recipharm, Choapac, Renaissance Lakewood, Ecolab, and Australian CDMO Novacina. As you'll hear, CPHI was a very crowded, busy event, and that background noise you hear is 65,000 people on the show floor, so please excuse for noise. A written transcription is available at pharmasource.global. First up is John Reed, Head of Strategic Business Planning at Recipharm. He starts by introducing us to Recipharm's CDMO business.
Firstly, we're one of the largest CDMOs in the industry. We have 18 manufacturing sites globally. We focus on three areas within our business, which is OSD, so oral solid dose, sterile, and more recently we have a biological side of our business called Reci-Biopharm.
And there's always a lot of announcements that we track at PharmaSource about what Recipharm's doing. So, very recently there was the launch of Reci-Predict, and various other partnerships and things you're announcing. I mean, what's been new for you in 2024? Could you just give us a high-level overview, please?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think you've highlighted one of the big ones there, which was Reci-Predict. We obviously listen to what our customers' pain points are and what they're interested in. One of the consistent things that our customers are telling us is speed to market is one of their pain points that they have. And the idea of Reci-Predict is that it's a modelling tool to be able to transfer a product into one of our facilities in a shorter time frame.
Okay. So how does it do that? So I've read the marketing bump about using data science to reduce API consumption by around 70%, accelerate drug development by up to 6 months. How does it work?
Well, it's all about modelling the actual product itself. So when you come up with a formulation or a product from going from clinical and you want to move it on to a commercial line, you need to make sure that you can actually scale that product. And one quick way of scaling it is using, as well as the normal traditional methods, but it's using sort of more analytical methods and looking at modelling how the product would react within a larger scale equipment. So it's actually looking at that.
Thank you. And then also tell me about the new product development lab for sterile liquids as well, which has been announced.
So if you listen to what's going on in the market, there's two trends really happening at the moment. You would have heard a lot about GLP-1,
of course,
which is a big topic at the moment. Generally, very high volumes are needed for those types of products. But also the underlying need within the market is smaller scale development and smaller scale, more personalised medicines. And so in our sterile facility, we not only have the large scale capabilities, but we're now also developing our smaller scale, more flexible lines to be able to address the emerging requirements from the industry.
Okay. Does that change the customer profile that you're looking to connect with? I mean, is it a different scale of company or just different scale of product?
So it could be a different company as well. I mean, if you think in the past we're used to the big pharmaceutical companies and they would have blockbuster drugs. And now there are other obviously companies coming into this space, which could be smaller in size. But that's needing to say some of the big pharmaceutical companies are also looking into more personalised medicines as well. So it does expands our offering, does expand some of our customer reach as well.
Yeah, great. You mentioned GLP-1s just now. How are you tapping into that? That's obviously one of these mega trends which is going to reshape the whole industry over the next 5 to 10 years or so. Well, what's Recipharm doing with regard to GLP-1s?
Well, firstly, we've got capabilities of managing both the sterile products, so the injectable products, which is the dominant part of the market at the moment, the bigger part of the market. but also there is a trend to go towards more of the tablets. It's obviously better for a consumer of a drug to take it orally than it is to inject it.
It should make a huge difference as soon as that starts coming online.
Exactly. And there are some clinical trials going on now. There is actually products that are launched in tablets, and there's others in late stage clinical. And for us, we are working with companies in that space. We can handle both large-scale volumes in oral products as well as the sterile products, so
Great.
more in the vials.
Thank you. Something I'm asking people as we go around CPHI is to sort of check the pulse of how they're feeling about the industry at the moment, having hopefully come out of that whole, whatever it was that happened over COVID. Some people went mega and then crashed back, others turned a different course. How are you feeling generally about the state of the industry right now?
Well, it's certainly true. During COVID, it was quite a big shock to the industry, particularly around the sterile products, the manufacturing the vials. The need and the demand for that manufacturing massively increased. I think we're going into more of a stable environment now, although there is clearly blockbusters coming through, which will potentially demand a lot of product, and GLP-1 is that product. So I think we're going to more stability and more of a understand what the actual future is for us. I mean, COVID was out of the blue. None of us were expecting that. Whereas I think GLP-1, we start to see that coming on board, and we start seeing what the impact could be, and the impact will be here to stay. It won't just be like COVID, where there was a big spike and then it went away.
Yeah. So reasons to feel positive then for 2025 from your perspective?
I think so, and it's predictable. And in this industry, we want things to be predictable so we can plan for the future. And I think we're going to that more of a steady state now.
Wonderful. John, thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you.
Next up is an interview with Dexter Choa, CEO of ChoaPack, the contract packaging organisation based in the Netherlands that has recently expanded its footprint into North America. I am joined live at CPHI Milan with Dexter Choa, who is the CEO of ChoaPack. Dexter, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you.
Great to see you today and to understand a bit more about the business. But before we jump in, I understand it's your 35th anniversary.
That's right, yeah. So 35 years ago, the company was started by my dad as a small contract packaging organization in the Netherlands. And we are having a bit of a moment at the event to celebrate 35 years of us transforming from humble beginnings to a global player in the space.
Yeah. No, it's been a fascinating journey. I mean, what were some of the main milestones, and particularly in recent years, I think, as you've expanded overseas?
Well, the biggest is really our physical footprint in the United States.
And that's with the PPS acquisition?
Yes, yeah. We acquired PPS at the end of 2021, really opening the US market for us in a new way. We were packaging products destined for the United States, but not in the United States, and that really helped grow that business for us.
Yeah. So how has that acquisition changed the mix of products and services which you offer, apart from the geographical footprint, of course?
Well, we have kept our niche quite the same, I suppose, right? We're targeting a small, mid-sized pharmaceutical businesses that value a higher touch service offering above and beyond the actual activity that we do. And the acquisition was really meant to help our existing customers in both of the biggest pharmaceutical markets in the world, so that we can support them with their needs in the US and be closer to the end market, and with their needs in Europe and be closer to the end market.
Yeah. And so what are those different types of packaging and pre-filled syringe solutions that you offer?
So the bread and butter of the company still is oral solid dose packaging. So that is a blister packaging, bottle packaging, so filling, primary filling, and then secondary packaging of those. And then in recent years, the largest growing segment has been the secondary packaging of injectable products. So vial labeling, but also pre-filled syringe assembly labeling, auto-injector assembly, that sort of activities.
Yeah, great. Now, particularly when we speak to CDMOs, who are increasingly trying to offer a all-in-one integrated solution, they talk about how it makes it easier for the pharma companies, biotechs, to work in that kind of way. What would you say about that? What do you think the advantages of being a specialist CPO are compared to sort of a all-in-one company?
Yeah, well, I mean, my answer is obviously very biased, but I think what we are able to offer and what we kind of try to put ourselves into market as is a much more flexible partner. So what we often see, especially for the customers and products that work well with us, is a little bit more volatile demand profile in the market. So a need for a faster turnaround time in the actual assembly or shifting in demand patterns. And what we are doing and what our entire manufacturing operation is organized around is to be able to accommodate that. So what we really set ourselves apart in is if the demand is truly really there, we can turn around really very quickly and help catch peak demand profiles.
Yep. With the PPS acquisition, how much now of your operations are truly integrated, so that you can just support one client across multiple regions, or are they still two separate orgs finding their way? How have you approached that integration?
Good question. It's still a journey, I guess, the right word for it. And we've made big strides in, first and foremost, unifying our quality management system. So, that very important as the foundation of our activities to be able to offer the same sort of service levels and quality standards that our customers who are familiar with across the world. But we want to be able to offer a seamless service for our customers. Doesn't matter where the product is packed, if it's in the US or in Europe. And that's still, that's still ongoing. That we're still harmonizing and continue to do so throughout this year, next year, and hopefully, in 12 months' time or so, customer would say, doesn't really matter where it's packed, it's the same experience.
Sure. Thank you. The market has changed so much, if you think over the last few years, the impact that COVID had on the overall environment, the rise of different modalities. What would you say for your business, for the Chopak business? What are those main trends which you think are strategic priorities for you that you'd call out as being particularly important?
Well, what we've seen, and I think that we're quite well positioned to help facilitate, is I don't know if we call it necessarily a reshoring or nearshoring trend, given the macroeconomic climate and the geopolitics, I guess. It's sort of creating a little bit decoupling of the globalized system. With our footprint in Europe and the US, and be able to get and have our storage facilities, etc., on site in the core markets. And we feel like we can be able to accommodate those type of trends in a little bit better way than maybe some of the other players in the world.
And having your northern European hub and your US hub, I suppose, helping to facilitate.
Will help facilitate that decoupling. Yeah, right. Yeah.
How positive are you feeling going into 2025? Do you feel as though the investment's back? Are we still on a road to recovery? What's your feeling?
We're feeling very positive. We're really seeing quite a lot of increase in demand for our services for a player like ourselves. We really believe in the combination of the packaging and the logistics services. So we're really playing into the space of essentially from drug product finish all the way to delivery of the product to the local distribution center, and that that there's still a lot of waste in that chain, and we see people looking for efficiencies. They're looking for ways to solve problems that happen down upstream from us in manufacturing, and how best to buffer those situations. And the role for a company like ourselves is growing there. So we're pretty positive on the future.
Great, thank you. And if I could just ask you one more question. We're currently working on the launch of our first event, CDMO Live, which is going to be in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam. How are you feeling at the moment about the state of the Dutch pharma, Dutch biotech ecosystem? Obviously, that's something that you're very much part of. Why is the Netherlands becoming such a destination for life sciences?
It's a good question. I have to admit that we operate a little bit more on the European stage, I guess, because of the nature of the relations we build in terms of the supply chain planning procedure. So I don't have that much exposure to the actual research and development side, which is what I know that the Dutch government and Dutch biotech sector is really focusing on, that early stage clinical segment of the industry. The Netherlands, it's a pretty nice country. If you set aside the weather, maybe. But all in all,
Milan's not that much better going by this way.
Yes, it's like here, right? But then every day. The Dutch government has been supporting the ecosystem, and there's some pretty solid research institutions in the Netherlands that helps facilitate and grow, kind of a burgeoning life science research and development sector. So,
And I mean, logistically, it seems to be a great hub for supply chain operations as well, in terms of access all across Europe.
Yeah, so there's a lot of logistics companies that are, at least have some operations, if not are headquartered in the Netherlands, the bigger 3PLs, but also, the smaller specialized pharmaceutical distribution center. The Netherlands has great facilities, and with the port of Rotterdam, of course, Schiphol Airport, also a big major hub for pharma products coming into Europe. That's a great infrastructure to be close to.
Yeah, for sure. Dexter, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Next up is an interview with Eric Knaps. Eric is Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Renaissance Lakewood, a pure-play CDMO specialising in nasal and sterile injectable dosage.
Renaissance Lakewood is a US-based CDMO. We focus specifically in nasal sprays, and we also do sterile injectable products as well. But the largest part of our business is nasal sprays in the unit dose, the bi-dose, or what we call microdose. And then we do multi-dose preserved products and multi-dose preservative-free or aseptic nasal sprays as well.
Great, thank you. And is there anything, we're here at the show, is there any new products, any new services which you're keen to talk to customers about?
Yeah, what we're seeing is, we moved down to building 20 where all the packaging components are, and there's a lot of interesting new devices being developed by very reputable organizations. So we're learning more about these devices and hope to be able to bring these to our customers, because as part of our offering, we can do the development of formulations, we can do the analytical work, the spray testing, and so then we can work with our clients for device selection or optimizing our formulations for the device they've already selected. So it's exciting as I see this market expanding and giving more options to get better outcomes for the patients.
And are there any particular modalities that you focus on, or could the technology be applied to most different types of drug substance, drug formulation?
It should work for almost anything. What we see in the nasal space is there's a lot of rescue indications or CNS indications, but the multi-dose has obviously the large allergy market, which is a bit OTC-like, but trying to get products to patient at the lowest cost per delivered unit. And so one thing we've been seeing with modalities is that seeing some products such as the pens, the auto-injectors, are very expensive, but they're very convenient for patients. As we're seeing people move to if we can move those molecules to let's say unit dose nasal, it's the same delivery, eliminates the needle, a little bit smaller, easier to carry, so if you have to always have something with you, it makes it a little bit more likely to have the patients use the product and have it available on them. So some of these, we've seen this happening a little bit. We hope to see more of that trend continuing.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so Renaissance Lakewood recently opened a new 67,000 square foot warehouse out of your New Jersey HQ. What does that mean in terms of the customers, the types of services that you can now offer, having gone through that large expansion?
Well, it was actually a bit more than that. That was the end of our expansion. So we started the expansion at the beginning of COVID. Had some trouble, obviously, getting things, and then so we actually opened a dedicated R&D building where we have our spray lab and some analytics, as well as our R&D laboratory, which is in a non-GMP space, where we can do early formulation, optimization, development, device configuration, just to help get products into the pipe and develop to maybe animal tox and prepared for phase 1 clinical materials.
Okay.
But the expansion of the warehouse is great because we were running out of space. We've had a lot of great success with our partner products, and as they're growing, we have to grow with them. And we want to be able to move the materials in the proper manner and be able to store our raws so that you're not waiting for the truck to show up, because sometimes lead times can be a little bit challenging. So really much needed, and then our current warehouse that's connected to the manufacturing facility is really more of a day warehouse where we fill it up with what we need for the day's production, and we move it out to the other warehouse, and actually creating a really nice flow of materials and a safer, more streamlined process for all the materials we do handle.
Great. I mean, that must be a significant step up in terms of the capacity that you have there. I mean, are you looking forwards over the next few years? Are you anticipating, are you forecasting that growth to continue?
We are actually, yeah, and we've been forecasting that for a number of years. So the good news is that right now we're awaiting delivery from additional packaging resources. So I have a new line coming in by the end of the year, and an additional line coming on next year that obviously took 2 or 3 years to put together, but it's now in process of being delivered. We'll get it qualified and start running. So a lot of our clients have had very, very solid growth. It's oftentimes we get a forecast and we're like, oh, that's great, and then the reality is that forecast is often on the low side, where I'm more concerned about when they over forecast, but
sure.
A lot of these products you don't know how quickly the uptake is, and when it's sometimes quicker than expected, we have to react. So we're positioned really well right now to grow with our partners, and we have some exciting new products on the market. The base products we've been making for years are also very steady as well. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, great. And looking forwards at 2025 and onwards, if you had to call out one particular market trend that you're focused on as a business, which you think is going to be significant in changing the services you offer going forward, what would that be?
I think it's really patient compliance. I think making products that patients can use, making products that patients can understand, because the drugs are, if you don't follow directions or you don't dose properly, they're not effective. And so I think some of the products we make are very easy. And so as our clients understand that this nasal delivery is really showing some promise, especially in the U.S., because it's relatively a new technology in the U.S. If you go to our drugstore, you aren't going to see the number of nasal sprays you'll see in Europe. It's just very new for us. And I think people are becoming more acceptable of this means of drug delivery. And people are like, oh, it's very easy. One shot, boom, and my product is delivered.
Yeah. What? Out of interest, why is that? What would you put that down to? The difference in nasal delivery adoption, US to Europe. What's behind that?
I've always been fascinated by that, because when I'm in Europe, I go to the train station and every third person is using a nasal spray.
Right.
In the United States, you might see sick people using nasal sprays, but I think what's happened is we have always been an oral solid dose country. That was our way to deliver our medicine, and I think nasal sprays do a lot as far as you don't have to have the first pass through the metabolic system, and at the end of the day, it's better, and sometimes it's delivering as quickly as an injection. So we've really seen nasal sprays progress from it's an allergy spray to it's a life-saving drug spray, and everything in between. So I think we're learning, and as people become more used to the nasal sprays, they're more apt to use them.
So it's more down to cultural reasons than regulatory.
Absolutely, yeah. Because again, one thing in the U.S., most of our nasal sprays, the allergy products, are preserved. In Europe, they're preservative free. We offer both. So when clients come in with a formulation, I can say we can do, you can go the preserved route, and then they're like, well, if it's a chronic application, oftentimes preservatives can create some agitation and irritation, which can then say, I don't want to use the drug because my nose is uncomfortable. But without the preservative, you don't see that. So we're seeing some growth in that space as well. But what's great is when someone comes to us, they have an idea. And it's like, what's the best way to deliver this product? We want to put it in the nose. Well, there's a lot of ways to put a drug into the nose. We can start with what we have, and then look at what their data shows or the animal tox shows, and put them in the correct and best medical device to deliver the product. and they don't have to go to a new site, and you can formulate then and tweak that formulation to the respective modules to deliver the products.
Eric, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Next up is an interview with Craig Cox. Craig is Vice President of Global Sales Bioprocessing for Ecolab.
Hi Luke, Craig Cox. I lead the Global Sales Field Application Specialist team for the Ecolab Bioprocessing, or what we formerly call the Purolite Resins.
Okay.
I've been in this space for over 25 years with two major bioprocessing suppliers and one CDMO during that stint. So glad to be here.
Great, thank you. So how does Ecolab support drug development?
Ecolab has a broad portfolio aimed at supporting drug developers and manufacturers. These products include cleaning and disinfection products specifically designed for clean rooms, water treatment solutions to ensure water purity, and environmental monitoring tools for clean room environments. Through its Purolite resin portfolio, Ecolab supports drug development within the process, including chromatography resins for biologic purification and resin-based APIs and excipients.
Okay.
Ecolab is also a global leader in sustainability, which gives us a unique perspective to support drug developers that are looking for more sustainable ways to manufacture drugs, leveraging Ecolab's tools and expertise.
Could you talk a bit more about that, please? How do you support sustainability?
So we support sustainability in a number of ways. So we have our resins are manufactured in a way where we have very limited scrap, single-digit scrap. So that is really unique in that a traditional emulsified process will have upwards of 40 or 50% of scrap. Our resins are also manufactured using low caustic compounds in the manufacturing process, as well as using less water.
Thank you. Purification is a really important step in monoclonal antibody purification. Why is purification such an important step?
The importance of purification, particularly monoclonal antibody purification, is that monoclonal antibodies must be highly specific to their target antigen, but they are manufactured in cell culture, which also includes a complex mix of cellular material, DNA, cell culture media components. So all of these need to be removed. Purification ensures that the antibodies produced are free from contaminants such as other proteins, nucleic acid, and cell debris. These contaminants can provoke an immune response or adverse effects when these mAbs are used in therapeutic settings. Purifying these antibodies minimizes the risk of harmful reactions and increases the safety profile of the product. In the end, purification, it's vital to ensure that monoclonal antibodies meet the required standards of their intended applications.
Thank you. Craig, from your perspective and from that of Ecolab, what would you say is an important trend right now that's shaping the industry? I mean, we've touched on ADCs, I suppose. I mean, where is it you're focused as a business?
Great question. Our strategy has always been to listen to our customers and help develop solutions for them. As I mentioned before, we're hearing from customers that increasing drug complexity and a desire to reduce cost are two big drivers in the industry. These challenges can feel like competing priorities, but more complex drugs suggest the need for more complex and costly manufacturing. Our customers span small biotechs to large pharma to CDMOs, and the problem can be slightly different depending on the type of company we're talking about. So when we're talking about reducing costs, to CDMOs, for example, CDMOs are typically responsible for sourcing all of their materials and developing the manufacturing process for their customers. They're passing those consumable costs as a pass-through to their customers as part of their overarching manufacturing costs. Forecasting and inventory planning can be a major challenge for CDMOs because their customers' needs are so variable. So they can be challenged when trying to develop efficient manufacturing processes with high-cost consumables such as resin. The complexity of molecules is a trend we're seeing really across the spectrum. In addition to consumable cost challenges, CDMOs also have a high variability in the types of molecules that they're hired to develop and manufacture. Many CDMOs try to use the platform approach where possible to standardize process development. This is a benefit for both the CDMO and the customer. However, when those CDMOs are faced with challenging molecules such as antibody fragments, bispecifics, Fc fusions, they may have to deviate from the platform, which add cost and time for their customers. Our strategy is to supply CDMOs with cost-effective resins to add to their toolbox that improve manufacturing efficiencies and ultimately save time and money for their customers. We mentioned some of the resins before, but these can be leveraged by CDMOs, biotechs, large pharma, all alike, to help address these challenges.
Thank you. And finally, the industry's been on such a roller coaster since COVID. Funding seems to be going up and down, and certainly for 2024 seems to be way down. But I mean, what's your sense from your customers? I mean, how positive are they feeling at the moment in terms of going into 2025? What's your take?
The COVID pandemic really shook up security of supply for pharma companies, without a doubt. They had to take a closer look at their supply chains and find vulnerabilities, especially when it came to materials sourced from one vendor, or production was with facilities overseas. Even through the peak of the pandemic, even though the peak of the pandemic is behind us, those lessons are still very relevant in the industry. Today, regulatory bodies are looking at pharma companies to mitigate risk through dual sourcing for important materials like resins, and to have solid plans in place to handle any unexpected shortages. On top of that, our customers are always innovating, working on new therapies, potentially discovering tomorrow's blockbuster drugs. Our customers expect their supply partners to demonstrate the ability that we can quickly ramp up to supply their rising demand. At Ecolab, our regulatory team collaborates across industry stakeholders to stay on top of the latest guidelines for validating new raw materials in manufacturing processes.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, I appreciate it.
The final interview today is with Peter Bullard, SVP of Manufacturing for the Australian CDMO Novacina.
So at Novacina, we're a fee-for-service CDMO, mainly in the sterile space. So we have a lot of work in the blow-fill seal area for sterile injectables. We have a large supply to the Australian market in that area already.
Yep.
We also provide high-potency anti-cancer drugs, well established there, supplying Europe and the US for many, many years in that space. And also some thermally sterilised vial lines. And we have a new automated isolated technology which allows us to move into the preclinical and clinical phase states around both pre-filled syringes, vials, and also cartridges.
Great. So you've got clients all around the world.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Yeah.
So we're a new company. Essentially, we've been around for 18 months, but we have a 50-year legacy. So 20 years of that with Pfizer. And several other multinationals before that, having started as a small Australian company in the 80s. So very large, diverse experience in the sterile space as part of Pfizer for 20 years. And we've really retained that talent and those connections as we move forward.
Great. So your facilities, they're ex-Pfizer?
Correct, yeah. So we only have one facility, which is the Perth facility. But it is ex-Pfizer. Was part of the transition from last year when we became part of Novacina.
Great, perfect, thank you. Something I'm quite interested to learn about is the dynamics within the Australian market. I mean, obviously, you travel around a lot, you go to conferences around the globe. What's your perspective on what are some of those unique market dynamics?
The Australian market is in some ways small, and has some unique aspects to it. So, for example, blow-fill seal for sterile injectables in the Australian market is extremely popular. Not so much in other markets around the world.
And why is that?
I think because of the usability of the product. I think for the health professionals, they find the blow-fill seal very, very useful. It's clean, it's neat. And I think the regulatory environment in Australia has allowed it to really be well accepted, not requiring terminal sterilisation for some products even. We do see, obviously, now as we move more globally, others are much more interested in inhalations and ophthalmics in the blow-fill seal space, but we've really seen a really strong growth in the injectables in Australia.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And so, I mean, so as a company, it's only been around for, obviously, with that track record, only been around for 18 months. I mean, what's next for you as a business? I mean, where do you see yourselves growing to?
So really, as we pivot from being a key supplier to a large organisation supplying over 98 countries worldwide, we really want to leverage and grow off that, looking for customers to supply markets similar, but also moving to really providing an end-to-end service from preclinical through clinical trials into commercial, so that people can really invest in one spot and get the results as they move from the clinical trials right through into commercial without having to go find other partners in that process.
Great, thank you. We're asking everyone to call out a particular market trend which you think of as important for your business. I mean, with such a fast changing market, what's that sort of trend or trends that you're focused on?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of interest and demand in the pre-filled space, pre-filled syringe space, and that's really one of the things we've done moving into that clinical phase with our new equipment that allows us to do that pre-filled syringes. We're also seeing a lot of it in the inhalation and ophthalmic space within the blow-fill seal area as well. There seems to be a continuing growing trend there.
Great, thank you. The last few years have been such a roller coaster, caused in part by COVID. What's your sense on how the market, how your customers are right now? Does it feel like 2025 is going to be a more positive year?
I think so. I think things have really settled down in the supply chain space. We've certainly seen pretty much a return to normal of the supply, which was really one of the biggest challenges for us. We're seeing a very positive 2025 from that respect. We're excited to be in the CDMO space in Australia at the moment. We're seeing really amazing opportunities from the Australian government supporting clinical trials. We have incentives available up to 48.5%. So we're seeing a really exciting space there where people can really get good value for money in the clinical trial space, and being part of that is something that we're really excited about and seeing that grow.
Peter, thank you so much for your time. To keep up to date with the latest in biopharma outsourcing, sign up to pharmasource.global. Thank you for listening.